Welcome, dear listeners, to the Speak and Flow podcast, where we dive into unique experiences to help you and your team unleash the power of their voice, achieve maximum potential and flow. Today, I have an amazing, incredibly talented leader in the software hardware engineering space, David Haboud. He is the CMO for engineering education worldwide. He's also the senior product marketing lead for Altium. His lifelong goal is to bridge the gap between hardware software design as through establishing connections with clients. Hi, David. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. Before we launch into how to establish connections, especially with software and hardware design, tell me about what are you excited and passionate about with regard to engineering education worldwide?
I just started to write about design for sustainability, very important topic. We have a lot of e-waste going around as we create new technologies, a lot of
Yeah,
disposable technology, one-time use thrown away. So talking about how to increase design reliability and design for sustainability is something I'm really passionate about right now, and I'm working with some clients to help them communicate their solutions, how they help with those things. So I'm pretty excited to get that some of that stuff out soon.
oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. That is amazing. I'm so glad that people are actually doing that because I see so much waste, and it's like, especially
Yeah.
after COVID, you
Hmm.
just saw all this waste and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
And
it's
so
really important to create things that last.
yes,
Convenience is great, and technology does that for us, but it's also important to make things that are reliable in a sustainable manner, so we're not creating all these pollutants and things unnecessarily. Some things,
yeah.
we need, but we have to think about it before we just make stuff and throw them away.
And that requires the pre-planning, the design from the upfront.
Yeah,
A lot of
because
intention.
you have to make sure that you can source things long term,
Yeah.
that you are not it's a concept called component derating, but we
Mm.
won't get into that too much. But essentially making sure that you are using components that
Yeah,
aren't going to deteriorate too quickly, so you need to remake them, and you're not
yeah,
spending all this time completing maintenance for customers, and you have a reliable product that they can use for years, and hopefully you create it in a way that you can repair it if it does break, as
right.
opposed to, oh, one tiny piece broke, the whole thing's garbage now. So creating things in that way is important.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously you had success with the beginning all the way to the implementation, execution, connecting to the clients, and with Altium as well too. And so tell us about a time where it was difficult to communicate. Like you said, engineers are very, they're challenged with communicating some of their bright technical ideas, and they want to
Mhm.
showcase all of their expertise and how it works and everything. But like, what are some of the challenges you faced with regard to using this communication and connecting to clients?
Yeah, like, first thing that comes to mind was when I first took over the global webinar process when
Mhm.
I was working at Altium a couple of years ago. Well, still working there, but when I took it over, um, we wanted to increase communications on a global level. A lot of things were focused on being in English. And because of the highly technical nature, there was a lot of focus on creating this perfect script that you could then give to someone else in another region, do it in Spanish, French, Italian, and we spent so much time trying to get the words perfect in English. Uh, we found that when we went to translate it, there was a lot of like colloquial conversation phrases that you use in the US, but
Mhm.
you wouldn't necessarily use in Japan, right?
Wow.
So things started breaking down there. We found the English versions were working very well because we spent so much time on it. But the people felt a little disconnected in the other regions. So taking a step back there and not focusing so much on the perfect words, but on the perfect meaning, right? The messaging, the key points, and allowing different people from the different regions to put in their own cultural inputs. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm. I have a question. How long did it take? Like, how much time were you doing? Were you putting into creating these scripts before
so
you realized?
yeah, each webinar is about a month of development,
Uh-huh.
researching things.
Uh-huh.
So I would say it'd be a day or two cumulative for the script, right? Because there's
Mhm. Mhm.
different
On top
pieces,
of.
and then on top of that, there'd be rewrites, right? Because
Mhm.
then we would be like, oh wait, that's not conveying it at all. I thought it did, and with highly technical things, generally the people who have the most knowledge in that field
Right.
aren't conversational speakers. So uh that's kind of where my passion comes in, since I come from this realm of design of both hardware and software. I
Yeah.
found I am someone who likes to communicate, so that's where I've kind of focused my energy. How can I become the gateway for people to have better conversations
Yeah.
and better communicate solutions across the
Yeah.
electronics industry?
Well, that's what makes you unique, because it's rare to have someone that is so highly technical, such as yourself, like to communicate. Do you
Yeah,
see that the importance of that?
yeah, it's it's important to follow what you're passionate with, right? What are you
Right.
good at? There's natural things we're good at, and I found let's I should spend some more time trying to help people communicate.
Yeah, yeah. So it's on. So when you started to realize, was it just like a light bulb? You realized, like, oh my goodness, why are we spending so much time on every single word and it's not connecting to people? And then was it your idea to say, let's use the key topics and the key ideas?
Yeah, so I gathered up the presenters. I,
Oh,
we
okay.
all virtually, of course. This was slightly, this was about 7 years ago, so not as common for us all to meet globally, but it's the very start of the Zoom. So we all would meet up, and we would brainstorm the key points of
hmm
the webinar before
hmm
we got into the minutia of everything,
hmm
and just really write that out, um, minimizing the overall text on all
hmm
of the slides.
hmm
Very technical presentations end up focusing on just like word vomit a little bit. So making sure we had really clear pictures of the concepts we were trying to show in
hmm
the software, creating new videos, examples of the engineering work, right? We would create little blocks that we could show and then deliver to people for them to try it out themselves, get that
hmm
hands-on experience. It's really important to get there and do it yourself.
hmm
So just doing all those little things, getting a team lead for each region so that
hmm
they could accumulate the information from their team, and we would all have conversations to come and improve each webinar in an iterative fashion.
hmm And how long did it take to do that, to get it to where
the
you
the
were
the whole process, it was about 6 months, because we would put out a webinar in a certain region and we'd iterate it during the localization process. So we
got
would
it?
meet up and talk about the webinar after the fact, and make a little changes there. And then each of the team leads would help with localization, another level. So getting the message sharper and sharper each time, doing
Yeah.
some dry runs at beforehand instead of spending all the time writing the script. Like
Right.
let's just try it. Let's just go do it, uh, and see what's good, what's bad. Where
Yeah.
did you ramble a little bit? Unfortunately, there's a little bit of rambling with me and other people when we're
Yeah.
presenting, but
Yeah.
it's part of it. It's where the
But it's a part
authenticity
of it.
comes in. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I think that's what makes, but this goes into just presentation skills as a whole. And it brings me up an idea of, I think a lot of people want it to be perfect the very first time coming out of the gate. And then what that does is it slows you down.
Mhm.
And it is going to be, and so if we can just think about it as lessons learned, and yeah, it's okay not to be perfect. There's a part of the authenticity about just putting yourself out there.
Mhm.
But it is a scary thought. But I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
I
go ahead.
the good thing, like for me, that's right when I started improvisational theater, and I think
Yeah,
that's what changed for me
yeah,
there, was that improvisational theater is the concept of yes
yeah,
and going
yeah,
out there and failing forward, but failing as a
yeah,
team. Your team has
yes,
your back there, so
yeah,
let's just go present to each other
yeah,
and improve there. We're not
yeah,
You're not going to be right 100% of the time, but that's where
right.
you can grow. Repeat the things that did work and figure out how to get the negative things out of your team's way. And
Yes. Keep going.
that's it. I think that's the most important thing, being there,
Keep, uh,
leading
did you have
in the
a
trenches.
specific example? Did you have a specific example of what you saw that was working, and they're like, okay, this does not work?
um Going back to getting rid of words.
Uh-huh.
Like, you know
Right.
instead of trying to fully, putting paragraphs all up on the screen, uh
Yeah.
how can I abstract this? A picture's worth 1,000 words. So let's get some pictures in, let's get some videos, and create experiences that are interactive.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how you learn. That's at least the way I learned the best, is getting in there, getting my hands dirty. Otherwise, it's just ideas.
Uh-huh.
Experience is the key thing, and persevering through all those little hiccups.
Right, right, right. Especially with, like you said, I mean, you're building the webinar. So eventually you're going to build a webinar for people to learn how to design products that are sustainable,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And so that will be a very powerful webinar, and and like iterative, like helping them to do something and then come back
Yeah.
and then learn some more, right? Yeah,
Iterative iteration is key, right?
yeah,
The key thing that, like, the industry has taken is agility, right? The
yeah,
agile concept,
yeah,
and traditionally with hardware, it's expensive to fail.
right, right,
So it's taking that software mentality of iterating on your software. Your software is going to have bugs,
right, right.
but you can create different prototypes virtually, right? And that's
Right.
part of what I teach. Like, how can you create things in a way that you test them out without it being so expensive.
Expensive. Yep. Yep. It's true. Yeah. No, it's so true. Right. And that is what, is that the webinars that they teach, that's what you're going to, that's a catalog of content that you want to specialize in.
Yeah, that's one of the
Great.
the key points. So it's just like how to make your process more iterative, so that you can be more sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How can you build in little checks instead of doing this whole waterfall thing, and you get to the end, oh, I worked on this script, I don't even like the key points, let's go back, let's iterate on the smaller things,
Yeah.
so that you know when you integrate it all together, you get this smooth little line. It's
Yeah.
just a lot of mathematical concepts bringing in.
I
and,
bet I bet you and your team have so much fun, especially with your background in improv, bringing in all of this, as they're putting themselves out there to communicate and present, you're, teaching them, I'm sure, some of the improv concepts that you've learned.
I
Must be
try,
fun.
you know,
Yeah.
to me, the biggest thing is to create an environment where people are comfortable to be themselves, like be
Yeah.
authentic, and that's not always like nice. That's not always an idea that comes up in corporate America.
Right.
but I think if you're not taking any risks, you're not
Yep.
going to grow and you're going to
Yep.
stagnate,
Yep.
and no one wants that.
No one wants that. And then you're not yourself. So it's like you're overthinking about who am I supposed to be? What decisions can I make? And that's
Yeah.
not fun. So it's like, yeah, I think there should be more of that. I hope that's what I like to bring into corporate America is the idea of being yourself, failing forward fast, doing
Hmm.
what you need to do, putting yourself out there as uncomfortable as it is. But like again, if you could create a safe environment like you do for you and your teams,
Yeah.
then they feel more, open to doing that.
Yeah. And I've
Yeah.
found that over time, people become more comfortable sharing those
Yeah.
things, because
Yeah.
there's great ideas that
Yeah.
just
No,
because
it's
you are leading something doesn't mean you automatically know. Everyone has their own experiences, and we live in this globalized world where you can get information from anywhere. So
mm.
take advantage of that, meet with people from everywhere, and integrate that.
Well, what I mean, because with especially with hardware and software design, it has to be pretty accurate. I mean, there's a lot of risk involved. And so what if
Hmm.
there are people that don't have, I mean, honestly, their idea is not the best? What do you do in that situation?
Everything is an opportunity to learn, right?
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
a bad idea can bring forth something new in a different person, right? every
Mm,
every piece of the puzzle allows you to gain experience and make changes that are necessary.
mm.
There Everything has validity if you give it its own space.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if you automatically discount it without
Yeah.
discussing, well, why was that a bad idea,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
oh, okay, instead of shooting it down like bad idea, why? So now maybe they can think of a new better idea,
Yeah, that
maybe,
makes sense. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't just leave people hanging.
Right.
Like,
Right.
give them that feedback, critical feedback, that is, you're trying to help them, not put them down.
Right, right. And then who knows? Because then that brainstorming can then lead to something powerful and out of the box.
Hmm.
You never know.
You, and
Yeah,
it's, we would do a lot of just like walking meetings where we would just,
right,
we pick a topic. We're like, what are we trying to solve? That's
right,
another key thing for, being more impactful with these webinars. Always having a question that you're trying to solve, right? Like,
right.
what am I trying to teach? Answering this specific question, and going from there. So we would just pick a topic, and we'd walk and talk and brainstorm. I got that from my first boss, Sam Sattel. We would do that, and I've always loved that. Just
Love that.
being in nature. Where office is in La Jolla, so good
Yeah,
good place to walk around.
love that.
Is by the UCSD campus.
Wow.
So just being able to get there, and that's where the creativity flows
Yeah,
when you're together. That's the key point to being in an office, like being together and bouncing ideas off of each other. Uh,
right, right. And then might as well. And then if you can bring it outside for like 10, 15 minutes, even better.
mhm.
Hmm.
Get a little sunlight, a little
Yes,
California sun,
yes,
a little
yes.
breeze. So
Not a bad place to be. Not a bad place for ideas.
not at all, not at all.
Yes, love that. Well, David, Last question before we end, because I learned a lot already with regard to, yeah, just creating that safe space for people to bring ideas forward and iterate it and bring it to the market in a way that is makes sense to them, like you said, and like letting go of the script, which requires then understanding what their culture is. How do we speak to them, which is very powerful. And what is a one leadership golden takeaway that you want the audience to remember?
Be open to everyone's ideas and make sure
Mm,
that you get in there and do the work yourself every once in a while so that you
mm,
can have these conversations with your own experience.
mhm.
A lot of times when we're leading, we're focusing on all of these like business concepts and buzzwords, but just get your hands dirty, have those
Yeah,
conversations, and make sure everyone feels comfortable. That's how you're
love
going to
that.
be creative and get the best information out there.
Love that. Love that. Just be with the people.
Yeah, like
Be with the
that
people.
that
Go.
that's your job, get keep doing the things that work and find out what's in people's way and get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Like
Get
that's
it out of the
that's
way.
that's what being a leader is, uh
Yes.
at least to me.
I love that. It's a great concept. I think it's so important. Yes, be with the people, understand what their needs are, get things out of the way, and don't be afraid to fail.
Don't be afraid. and
Don't be
and that
afraid.
that came from the improv because being you know on a technical level coming from the engineering side, you're so scared of failure all the time,
Right.
and you're like there's a correct way. There's no one way to do anything. There is always another way, so go try and iterate.
Love that. Love that. Thank you, David. I
Thank you.
really appreciate your time. It was really valuable. I trust also that our audience is taking away the nuggets that they need so that they can implement in their lives and speak from courage, speak with confidence, connect with their clients and audiences in a way that matters and makes positive change. Thank you. And thank you, audience, for being here. I trust you're well, and I will see you on the other side and at our next episode. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, David.
Bye.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. Are you curious on how you measure up with your ability to speak in flow? Come grab my free self-assessment at https://speakinflow.com/assessment. And I'll see you on the other side.